You're tuned into news across the galaxy where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
What is up, fellow G's? This is Edgar from News Across the Galaxy, and this is the Midweek Show. With me today is a special guest, Travis Hellwig of the Happy Foot, Sad Foot, and LAFC podcast. Hey, Travis, thank you so much for joining me today. It's rivalry week. Once again, El Trafico at the Rose Bowl is back, but there's something different about this edition. We're talking big boy heavyweight match feel. What do you think, Travis?
Well, thank you for having me. This is mainly so if people recognize me, I don't get beat up at the Rose Bowl. This is going to be. We just recorded our preview episode yesterday, and I said I think this is the most important regular season El Trafico that there's been. I mean, there's been big matches in the past, but this is the first time where the stakes feel bigger than just the bragging rights or the curses that we were trying to break by you guys always beating us and we wanted to beat you in certain locations. You know, this will mean a lot to the supporter shield race and to the seeding going forward for the West. So, I have that Trafico week nervousness going on for sure.
Yeah, it's really strange how this all came together. It's like the stars aligned just perfectly because it's not just a Trafico at the Rose Bowl. It's Fourth of July, and both teams are riding a high right now.
For
Both teams
sure.
come in with streaks. It's been a long time since LA Galaxy has been playing at this level. LAFC had a rough start, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So oh my God, it's like the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6, and they're just something's got to give, right?
Ultimate Warrior's last name is Hellwig as well. His name is Jim
There you go.
Hellwig. So there you go.
They're gonna start like bouncing the ropes there.
For sure. Although I think Hulk Hogan, I'd rather be Hulk Hogan long term than Jim Hellwig, I think.
Yeah. Right. Oh. So Travis, how did you start the podcast? Because it's got a very interesting name, and anybody who grew up in LA, you immediately recognize the logo, you'll recognize the name. But tell me, how did you start the podcast, and where did you get the idea for the name?
So I mean the idea of the name, as I'm sure many of your listeners will know, is based on a sign that separated Silver Lake and Echo Park for a long time until like 3 years ago. It was a sign that rotated and it had a smiling happy foot on one side and a sad depressed foot on the other. And the I guess the lore around the sign was whichever side you saw first would be how good of a day you would have. So if you saw the happy foot side, you would have a good day. If you saw the sad foot side, you would have a bad day. And that was always something that I loved. They tore the sign down, of course, because it's in Silver Lake or Echo Park, so nothing with any history can last. It has to be torn down. But we are very happy to take the name, and we've actually, the person who has the sign has reached out to us since. People are excited that we've kept the mantle of the name alive a little bit. And we started the pot. My friend Darren Miller and I, we both are comedy writers and producers. And we were talking about LAFC a lot, and we didn't have many other people to talk to about it. And we said, well, why don't we see if we could find some people who want to talk to us about it? And we've built a cool community. We do a live stream after every game. So if you ever want to troll LAFC fans after we lose, head on over to our YouTube. You're welcome to make fun of us in the chat. We encourage it.
So it's kind of hard to troll you guys right now, though, because it's been a while since LAFC lost a match. I mean, things didn't start off so good. How was it that LAFC turned things around after that rough start?
It's really interesting. I mean, it's a tale of two seasons in a lot of ways. Like, it was the worst start we've ever had. And we were writing the season off. We were saying, like, I guess it's a rebuilding year. We all know Miami's going to win. Like, we were trying to like be okay with how bad it was. And as I'm sure you guys know, we're not used to this. This is new still for all of us. And so losing just felt, as I'm sure it felt over the last couple of years for you guys, it just feels wrong. And luckily, what's interesting is our goals started to fall, but I think what actually turned it around is we signed Maxime Chanot. And Maxime Chanot shored up our defense in a way that instilled confidence in everyone else. And suddenly Atuesta and Ilie Sanchez know how to play together, and Tillman is freed up to score. Matty Bogusz becomes our second best player overnight. That's, he is fourth, I think, in scoring in MLS right now, which is crazy. I mean, he's one goal behind Denny Bouanga, and Denny Bouanga takes our PKs. So that means Matty Bogusz from open play has scored way more than Denny Bouanga. And then Bouanga found a way to stop hitting the post and started scoring. And it all turned around in that Trafico game where we were lucky enough to get a nice PK for Denny Bouanga. And I think we all agree, obvious penalty. That's what I'm going to get beat up for saying it was a penalty. But no, and that sort of gave us the confidence to turn it around. And since then, it's been, May, June have been unbelievable months for us as a team.
There was that shock loss to the Smurfs, right?
Yes, unfortunately, we did have that, and there was another loss in there as well that I'm forgetting. But outside of that, we're on an 8-game unbeaten streak now, or 9-game unbeaten streak, something like that. So it feels, this is the most confident I've felt in this team, honestly, since the year we won the cup. It didn't feel this good last year, even.
Yeah, over here in LA Galaxy, it's interesting because a lot of people keep asking the question, "Are we back? Are we back?" And on our podcast, we're kind of realists, and we're like, no, we're not back. It doesn't feel like we're back. And some people will say, oh, the next game is a must-win game. I mean, in my opinion, every game is a must-win game. Why the heck are you going to take it easy in one game, against one opponent and another opponent, when later than season come decision day, you're like, oh, this is a must-win game because we didn't take it seriously earlier. No, every game is a must-win game. But I don't see it like that. I see it as like every game is a test. Some tests you're expected to pass, like for example, the match against Sporting Kansas City, a match against San Jose Earthquakes, and then there's there's tests against teams that presumably were strong, like for example, early in the season against St. Louis, against Seattle, which turns out they're not having such a great season, right? And then there's RSL, which has had a really good resurgence this year, and then this obviously is the biggest test of the year. I even went so far as to say in the last episode of our podcast, if some way Galaxy defeats LAFC in this match, you guys can go ahead and say yes, we are back, because this is the biggest test. This will be the biggest test because this is the toughest opponent that we will have faced this entire season. It almost feels like everything that has happened so far has led up to this moment. And obviously, we're not even in October yet, right? So it's the midway to the season.
Just to return the compliment too, though,
yeah.
like the Galaxy have not been good since LAFC have been in the league. You've still found ways to beat us consistently, in a way that is infuriating. But this season, I don't know if we're better than you. And that's new for us. Like this is the first time I'm like, the Galaxy might deserve to beat us. You guys are playing, and you're playing fun soccer too. You're really fun to watch. And like, Paintcell and Peck are just like, they're players that I think everyone in the league wishes were on their team, along with Puig, who, is obviously I see in my nightmares. But it's fun to watch the Galaxy this year, and truly, like, this is why this match feels so important, not only because of the standings, but I think it's also a test for us. Like, we've won a lot of these games we should have won, and we've beaten teams like Colorado that are good, but I don't think anyone thinks Colorado is as good as the Galaxy. So I'm very interested to see, now that both teams are firing on all cylinders, what happens at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, another thing that's very interesting is that Ricky Puig just came back from injury. And during his absence, the team managed to come together in a different fashion, because a lot of people, especially when I talk to other podcasters, they always explain, or not, they don't explain, they told me how important they see Ricky Puig, right? They express, that's what I was looking for. They express how important they think Ricky Puig is to this team's success. And from our perspective, and it might sound, and I would say it might sound like we're nitpicking that, because we're sitting on riches, right? With Ricky Puig, we nitpick at his game. We're like, he holds on to the ball too long. He makes a lot of, he makes a lot of turnovers in the defensive third when he tries to, run with the ball from the back, or what you end up seeing in an MLS highlight package is when he threads the pass, right? When he gets those nice long little passes, or he scores a screamer from way out in the box. But you don't see like the 8 or 7 times where he turns the ball over, or he runs into a group of players and gets dispossessed. So it's kind of frustrating because in his absence, the other players came together and they've been playing a more dynamic, fluid style of play
Interesting.
where Peck and Paintsel have been more mobile. They're like Peck in particular. It's like he's unshackled, and all of a sudden he's just running free. He's beating defenders around the corner. He's getting those passes that he wants. And for a lot of Galaxy fans, it's like just stick, it's like you get a jacket out of the closet, you stick your hand in, and you find $100 bill. Like, oh shit, what was this all along, right? And then the question was, and when Ricky Puig came back, is he gonna buy into Banny's system, or is he gonna exert his dominance, or over the ball like he has been doing the entire season? And we kind of saw a little bit of both against San Jose. He came in, he wanted to go back to the same thing he was doing, but then it almost like something clicked, and all of a sudden he started just holding the ball, passing it to his teammates, and then they scored the last 2 goals of the game. So the question is, okay, San Jose was like the dress rehearsal. Now comes the big show against LAFC. How is he going to perform? Is he even going to start? So from your perspective, I would say Galaxy could come at you from the two different offenses. You could come in with Ricky Puig doing what he does, or without Ricky Puig, and you're going to see a lot more Paintsel and Pack moving around with Diego Fagundes in the middle controlling things. So yeah, it's something a lot of people are like, I explained to them like, yeah, this team is doing things a little different, and it's weird for us. And because we did the pod against RSL, and they're like, yeah, the team has been planning, for Ricky Puig this whole time, and Ricky Puig didn't play that game. It was just the other guys, and Galaxy ended up winning. So
it'll
I
be
don't know.
interesting. I mean, I can't. Puig seems to really thrive in Traficos. I think he's going to want to start, even if Vanny doesn't want him to start. He always plays well against us. We have no one. Our midfield's pretty old. Like we don't. I mean, not old anymore, but we have no one with the speed to match him at all. I like outside of Bouanga, I don't know, and Kike Oliveira, who's at Copa America. Like I don't know if we have anyone on our team that could come close to his speed. So he always terrifies me.
Yeah, it's fascinating when he did come back against San Jose. He does those little things, right, that you don't see like your typical MLS player does, where he's thinking maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead. And like I said, once he started playing a lot more of his teammates, he's doing those quick little passes, give and goes, and just turnarounds, and seeing things that other players that MLS caliber players don't see. He's got that pedigree from La Masia, and so hopefully we'll see more of that in this match. It'll be an entertaining match.
For sure.
But backing up a bit, we were talking about Boanga. What was wrong with Boanga? Because in that first El Trafico, man, that guy could not hit the side of a barn, man. What was going on?
It really feels like it was mental, genuinely, because it wasn't just Bouanga. Kike Oliveira was missing wide open shots. Bogusz was missing wide open shots. The way we were playing was new still. It's our first season ever without Carlos Vela, and Carlos, for all of his credit and goal scoring ability, kind of was our best distributor last couple of years. He was just an incredible passer, and he took a lot of the gravity of the defense away from Denny Bouanga, and so Denny could hit guys one-on-one. Denny had to learn that suddenly he's going to get all of the defensive pressure, and you can't force it in that same way. And honestly, once he adjusted to that, it still didn't work. And it really just required both him and Kike Oliveira to get a few balls in the back of the net. And then it just started clicking. I think Denny hit the post maybe 4 or 5 times in the beginning of the season, like in a way that it felt pathological. Like I was like, so he's doing this because he gets off on it. Like, why else would you hit the post this many times? But it was I don't know. He's fully back to his old self, and he's learned to trust that Kike Oliveira and Matty Bogusz can score goals. Because I also think early on in the season he felt like with Carlos leaving, it was all up to him, and for a while that was true. And then once the other guys showed that they could do something with the ball, he has been more free to give up the ball, and that selfishness has gone away. And hopefully that remains when we get a Frenchman to come in a few months.
But you mentioned Bogusz, and my God, he had that hat trick this over the weekend. The guy is on fire. Is this something that was expected of him when he first joined the club, or is this just like this is coming out of nowhere?
I mean, this level of quality we haven't seen this from him. I mean, we all liked him. He's a smart player. He always was in the right place, and I was always a big defender of him. People would get annoyed when he would take some of these shots that he would take. He just is smart. He's always in the right place at the right time. And I think it's 9 games in a row now that he is involved in some sort of goal scoring opportunity, whether it's an assist or a goal. He scored in a bunch of our most recent games. Obviously, he had a hat trick the last game. I don't think anyone saw him being this good. He's so good that I would say most LAFC fans assume he's either leaving this summer or in the winter. Wow. He's 22. You can't be playing this well at that age in MLS and stay in MLS. And I don't begrudge him. He's that good. If he wants to play in Europe or the team wants to make but like we signed him for cheap. We could probably sell him for $10 million at this point. He's playing really, really well.
Well, shifting the attention back to the game, like we said, big match feel Thursday. It's gonna be lit. Looking at both teams, what is the biggest concern for LAFC heading into this match, would you say?
There's been our defense has been good, and it's better now than it was at the beginning of the season. However, we've got a lot of injuries in the back. Chanot, who I brought up earlier, is just working back from an injury, and he's been our steadiest on the back line. Aaron Long and Murillo are in the center instead of him. Neither one of them is a very good passer. And I know with a team as smart and dynamic as the Galaxy, our passing out of the back needs to be precise, or else we're going to get screwed over. So I'm nervous. And Ryan Hollingshead is also coming out of an injury. So there's just a level of shakiness to the back line that I'm scared of. But every Trafico has 100 goals anyways, so it's probably going to be like 6-5 in the end. So if anything, our midfield is great and our offense is looking really good at the moment. I would say what scares me is just the vibe of a derby match. The Galaxy always show up. We know that. And we don't always show up to these games. And it's something we needed the win at the beginning of the season. This one, I'm worried we'll overlook again, as we've done in the past, but the Galaxy always show up for these games. And hopefully we will as well.
Yeah, like an old friend of mine said, there's nothing like that cozy little derby feel, right? When your skin's crawling as the game is starting.
Oh, it is so we talked about it before we started recording. I'm not going to be at the match. There's a relief in knowing I'm not going to have to feel that in public. I'll feel it at home alone.
Yeah, I won't be there either. I am as much as I love Rose Bowl being the spiritual home of the Galaxy. I did not like going to games there. I lived in Pasadena for 4 years after my wife and I got married. I remember whenever there was a game there, I would rather walk there and then walk back out instead of having to drive in there, because it's hell.
It's a nightmare. I went last year. Obviously was a nightmare for us for a bunch of reasons, but it took 2 hours to park and then 30 minutes to walk in. It's just like, I understand the history of it. And I know in LA, we don't have a ton of history for a lot of things, but it's not the best venue for soccer. And we were saying too, there's something nice about a smaller stadium. It feels more intense than a larger stadium where you'll get a lot of casuals as well. But I was there last year. I can't miss 2 holidays in a row, or else I'll be forced to get a divorce. So I have to sit this one out.
No, I feel you. Yeah, before we started recording, we were talking about the venue itself, right? And I was talking about how I'm not a big fan of the Rose Bowl as much as there's so much history there. Um, and you mentioned how you rather have the game at the Dignity Health Sports Park, and or at the bank, or I'm sorry, BMO, right?
How dare you call it by its proper name?
I'm so sorry,
BMO. Yeah, this
BMO.
interview's over. This
Damn it, BMO. There you go. I never knew how to say that. I just know it's the Bank of Montreal.
yeah. We're people still call it the bank though. It's fine. But yeah,
Yeah.
BMO.
Okay. So would do you think if they ever move this match to say SoFi Stadium, and I know both teams have played there already. They played that was
Mhm.
that I forgot what it
Oh
was
yeah,
called.
I was
The
at that
Leagues
game. I
Cup
forget.
thing, the Leagues
Yeah.
Cup showcase. That was like what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never been there for a sporting event, which is kind of interesting. I've been there to see WrestleMania both nights. I was there to
Oh,
see
nice. You were
Metallica.
there for WrestleMania when you
Yeah,
saw
that was
Cody Rhodes get screwed.
oh yes. The crowd, man, it was almost a riot.
Ugh.
But I got to see my boy Gunther lift that belt
Yeah.
though. That was good. It was a good time. It was a good time. I got to see Metallica there both nights. So one thing I could say about SoFi, if you've never been there, it's a massive stadium. It's a massive place where things happen. Because if you're not sitting like in the first three bowls or rings or whatever, and it feels like you're might as well just stay at home.
Yeah.
If anybody was watching that USA game today, that the broadcast, and they had that weird camera
They
angle,
shot it from like a drone or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like to be at SoFi when you sit in the upper levels. You're like, what? I should have
Yeah.
stayed home.
Yeah. Well, luckily
Um,
the screen is so nice in there that you could just watch the nicest TV. You pay $80 to watch a really nice TV at SoFi.
right. But unfortunately, during WrestleMania, I think for like 30 minutes, the screen went down, and the people in the upper bowl were booing the entire time.
That's very funny.
But yeah, do you think that would ever happen? You think MLS would ever be like, you know what, the Rose Bowl's fine, but let's move it to a more modern location, especially since this is going to be a World Cup venue? Do you think that's something that might happen?
I mean, I would hope, I hope so. I get whenever I talk shit about the Rose Bowl publicly, I do get some pushback from Galaxy fans. So I'm anticipating people being upset that I don't like the Rose Bowl. I get it. I also live like 10 minutes from the Rose Bowl and I still don't want to go there. But SoFi is just a better venue as a viewer. The seats are bigger. You do have access to screens in front of you if you can't see what's going on. And also a big thing is there's shade. Something that
Yeah,
was really uncomfortable last year during that game was it's the middle of the summer. We're entering the stadium at like 5, 6 p.m. It's still really hot. I actually think it was an early game last year. Like it ended at night, but I actually think a lot of it did take place during the daylight. I don't remember exactly the time it started. But like that game that we were supposed to play last year, which was what, in February, the opening of the season, that would have been a much more pleasant experience because you don't have to
are
be
you
in the hot
sure?
sun.
In the rain?
Yeah, well, definitely not
Oh, if
when it
that
was
whole
raining
place
like
flooded, man. So
that.
you're screwed either way. Mother Nature's like, screw
I'd
you
rather
guys.
sit in the rain. Actually, that's not true. I don't want to sit in the rain. I'll chafe. The But yeah, I mean, SoFi also has its own and exit and entrance problems, but I think as a viewer as a person in the stands, it's a more pleasant experience. But as we all know, Inglewood is not Los Angeles. It's the county of Los Angeles, which doesn't count. We all agree that doesn't count, right?
Yeah, right. It's LA Lakers, damn it. All
Yeah,
those years,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, it'll be the
Um,
Inglewood Clipper, or yeah, right. The Clippers are moving in
Hell
there.
yeah, go Clips, baby. I'm a Clipper fan. What can I
Are you?
say?
My wife is too.
There you go. See,
Yeah. Sorry
go
about
Clips.
Paul George.
Ah, I was hoping it was Kawhi and him not leaving.
Yeah.
I feel like Kawhi is a bigger bum, but whatever.
I mean, Kawhi gets hurt a lot more. Paul George is much more consistent. I've watched a lot of
Yeah,
Clippers because of my wife, and I've grown fun. Paul George just seems like a good dude too. Like I'm
yeah,
sad that I don't get to see him play anymore.
yeah. Kawhi, I feel like he's made of cotton candy, and just any given moment he'll just like just fall
Yeah,
apart.
his
But anyway,
personality too.
oh yeah, I didn't get into that. Um, but yeah, going back to the game, what do you mentioned a few things, a few concerns for LAFC, but what do you think it will take for this LA Galaxy team to break down and defeat LAFC in this match?
You know what's It's interesting. I feel like LAFC has a completely new style of play since maybe even when you saw us last. I think we've gotten better at what we wanted to do since you last played us. We last year we played entirely in transition. Bouanga's fast, get him the ball, he'll outrun everyone. Now with Atuesta returning in the center, he is a little bit more dynamic with his passing, and we've decided we want to hold the ball more and keep more possession. When the Galaxy beat us in years previous, when we were more possession oriented, the way that they did it is with really tight defense and mucking up our passing, making sure that we're not making the passes we want to make, and getting under our skin. I think there's so much animosity and stress that's involved in these games, and it's clear that the players take that on too. And I think some smart little fouls to get under our skin is sort of how we played you guys at the beginning of the season when you guys were playing so well and we were playing terribly. And I think that sort of making the game messy, not a pun, making the game like feel messy is a good way to screw it up for us right now, because I do think we're playing really beautiful soccer and we haven't played that in a year and a half. So I think just making us have to work for it. And then on top of that, I think taking advantage of I think our defense is our weakest link right now, and just taking advantage of the mistakes that get made, especially if Jesus Murillo plays, who is prone to one big mistake a game. You just have to score when we make those mistakes. But yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that, the to make things messy will affect LAFC, because Galaxy is not particularly aggressive team. They depend a lot on trying to make the right passes, precision play, especially when Ricky Puig is on the ball. And in fact, one of the things that a lot of teams do is to try to get under his skin is like they foul him, put a body on him, knock him around, because as you've seen in past Traficos, it has affected him. He has a temper, and it's something that I think he either needs to keep working on, or it's something that could come back at any given moment. So who knows?
It seems like you don't like Ricky Puig as much as I thought you would like Ricky Puig.
No, it's funny. I get that a lot. Me and one of our co-hosts named Eddie. A lot of people say, "You guys hate Ricky Puig." He's like, no. It's just that we think he could be a lot better, and it's just these little things that he needs to do to get there. And a lot of people are like, "How dare you speak about Ricky Puig?" Like, no. That's why I said, it's like we have this. We're sitting on riches and we're complaining about it, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how long he's going to be here in the league. Obviously, he just signed an extension to.
I was surprised that he signed that extension. I thought he might find, a home in a bigger league somewhere, because he's been so good.
Yeah, a lot of people mention that too. Like they're kind of surprised, but like I said, from our perspective, we see holes in his game, and maybe like some scouts from Europe see the same thing.
Yeah,
but this is an opportunity for him to develop and evolve. And I always remind people, yeah, it's kind of frustrating to see him make these mistakes, but you're watching a player go through the process of evolving into something better, and we're not seeing the finished product yet, right? Like, for example, like we mentioned, Olivier Giroud is coming to LAFC, and this guy is, he's a world-class player. He's at a point in his career where he's like a very polished player. He's you know what to expect from him. But maybe when he was younger, you saw him go through these growing pains, and it might have been frustrating. We're seeing the same thing with Ricky Puig, right?
Yeah.
So if for us to complain about him, we have the benefit of it to be able to do that. But when he's good, man, he is good. And you're right. He wakes up on Trafico morning, and he's like, I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah.
So
see him in my nightmares for sure.
So we'll see. Now let's talk about the records between both teams, because what a rivalry is only as good as the teams are against each other. In 22 matches overall, including playoffs, U.S. Open Cup, MLS is back. It's 22 matches between Galaxy and LAFC. Galaxy holds a slight edge, 9 wins. LAFC has 8, with 5 draws between them. The last 2 results have gone LAFC's way, with a 4-2 win at the end of last season and a 2-1 win earlier this season. And then we're going to play each other this game and another game, and who knows, maybe down the road in Leagues Cup, and maybe down the road again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We
This year,
mentioned
definitely
this.
in the playoffs, I have a feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the road to MLS Cup is gonna definitely have to come through LA at some
For
point.
sure.
We mentioned this before before we started hit record. Do you think that the league milks this rivalry too much, where after a while it gets watered down?
Yes is the answer. Like I at the beginning of LAFC's tenure in the league, I did not miss a Trafico. I went to the ones away. I went to the ones home. It just was something that felt like it felt important to be a part of, right? I don't know why I said it with such diction. Important to be a part of. But we've played each other so frequently now, both in Open Cup, and then we played each other enough that LAFC in Open Cup played our LAFC 2 players. That's how little the rivalry meant. And our fans didn't even show up to that game, which was embarrassing in its own way. And then we talked about it became the Payaso, Ricky Puig, Chiellini rivalry game, which
Yeah,
still remains one of the funnier moments for me in the rivalry. But I think um, there's something about this when the teams play each other that always feels big and crazy and anything can happen. But the more that we do it, the less it feels special. Especially
yeah.
now that we'll play each other in the playoffs if we both keep playing this way. I don't see why we shouldn't just do twice a year, one home and one away. And then when we get those playoff games or those cup games, that's going to feel even more important. Whereas now Open Cup feels like an afterthought or whatever because we want these regular season games so much. And I do think that there's going to be a lot fewer butts in the seats for the Rose Bowl this year. One for the logistics that we were talking about, and last year it felt special. We didn't know if it would ever happen again. Now, if it's going to be every July 4th, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's necessarily do it once every 5 years or whatever. Like make it a special thing, but especially if you're not going to lower the price. Like the tickets are pretty expensive if you buy them at face value. Um, I just this is such a special thing in American club soccer. It really is the biggest rivalry in American club soccer now. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Maybe a few weirdos in the Pacific Northwest might say something else, but I do think that everyone agrees that something special is happening between these two teams, and it's a shame that they are milking the cash cow as much as they are because I
Yeah.
think that'll lose some of the specialness from it.
No, you're absolutely correct. And it loses some of its luster because, like you were mentioning, those early Trafico matches. My God, there was so
Mm-hmm.
much intensity on and off the field. It felt like life or death, right? And everybody was just watching every little kick, every little movement, and at the end, you either felt a sense of relief or you felt like this horrible void, right,
Mm-hmm.
of loss. And now, when you see that when you look at the calendar, you're like, oh, we're gonna play these guys like three, maybe four times in the regular season, and then Open Cup. Well, I don't know about Open Cup for Galaxy, but Leagues Cup maybe, or
Yeah.
somewhere down the line in the playoffs. Like, okay, this is the fifth time we see these guys. I'm getting kind of tired of seeing these guys. What do we expect? And
Well, it makes the oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
To the cap off and echo what you said about the Rose Bowl. You made a good point. That game last year, we didn't know if it was going to happen again, right? It was like a special thing, but now if it's going to happen every year, and people start to realize what a hassle it is to get in and get out, it's no longer something that it's a must do. It's more like we gotta go. Oh yes, we gotta go.
Right. I feel guilt that I'm not going because I feel like I'm letting the team down, but also like because we play so frequently, I'm like, well, I'll just go to Carson for the next one. Like I know that more are coming. So it doesn't feel as important as it did early on. And also early on, I feel like, especially because you guys were so good at beating us early on, it really felt like a monkey on our back for a long time that we couldn't beat you. And then, we won in the playoffs and that felt, and then it was like, oh, we can't win in the regular season. Then we finally won in the regular season. It wasn't until last year that we finally won at Carson. Like it just, now that those sort of like, yeah, monkeys are off our back, it feels like some of the fear that I would feel isn't there as much because now it's just both teams are good. We want to win, but it doesn't feel as unprecedented as it once did.
I think though, one come Thursday morning though, and you look
Oh
at
God.
you look at the day and you start hearing those fireworks popping off in the distance,
Oof.
and then you look at the schedule and you're like, oh my God, tonight. Yeah, it's gonna feel different, right?
Yeah, for
Especially
sure.
once the ball kicks off, you hear the roar of the crowd, and
Even just talking to you, I'm getting nervous.
Me too. So
Yeah.
let's talk predictions because this is this is really interesting. I asked around, I asked some people around, I know some other people that cover LAFC, and I asked, and some people were saying it's a draw. It's gonna be a draw. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? That's the easy way out. No, we gotta have a winner, we gotta have a loser, because a draw is fine, but whatever. It doesn't really give us that sense of gravitas from somebody
Yeah.
winning and somebody losing, right? Especially if the game is hyped up as much as it is. It is the last game on this match day schedule, so all the eyes of MLS are going to be on this game. So, what do you say, Travis?
Well, we have a segment on my show that's called Bet It and Forget It. And at the end of the show, we each put in $5 and we bet something outlandish. And it almost never comes true, but when it does, all the money has accumulated over time and someone wins like a good amount of money. So it's like someone wins once every 3 months or whatever. And this week, my Bet It and Forget It was there will be at least 7 goals scored total.
Jesus.
So I'm going to keep that bet rolling,
Oh my
and I'm going to
God.
say 4-3 LAFC at the Rose Bowl.
That's an insane amount of goals, considering we're talking about how good the defenses are on both teams.
But look, it's supposed to be an outlandish bet, so my prediction, I have to stick with my crazy bet.
All right, all right. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about Lloris
Wait,
earlier,
what's your
but
prediction? What's your prediction?
okay, I'm getting there. Just tell me, hey, is Lloris okay? Is he nursing like a calf injury or something? Is his knees okay?
I haven't noticed. Look, he's been. There was a graph that went around a few months ago that put him in the last spot in MLS for a goalkeeping metric, and since that graph went viral or chart, he's been unbelievable. I feel very comfortable. He is what 40, 39. So there's always a chance that he might get a little stiff or slow, but he's looked really good over the last few months. I hope that he's not injured. If you know something I don't know, don't tell me.
Just a little aside, something I heard last week. I was listening to a Colorado Rapids podcast, and that'll give you a clue. And they were talking about goalie statistics, and they asked who statistically is the worst goalkeeper in MLS. Zach Steffen,
Interesting, because he's so
right?
good in my mind, right?
Nah, he's had a nightmare season. I mean, and this is in spite of how well Colorado has been doing.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how much they miss William Yarbrough, and
Interesting.
Yarborough's he's a good goalkeeper. He just happens to
Yeah.
be on a really bad team.
Yeah. How's McCarthy doing? You guys like McCarthy?
Yes, he is. Let me tell you, after all the goalkeepers we've had in the last few years, he is definitely a step up. But a lot of people are aware that he's not the best kind of goalkeeper you could get in MLS. He's somewhere up there in the middle.
Yeah.
And but for what he's done for us, especially in these last 3 matches, Galaxy has 3 straight clean sheets. So he has made some really good saves that somebody like a Jonathan Bond could never do.
Yeah.
Uh, he yaps a lot. You always hear him, and that's good. I used to play center back, and then for a while I played goalkeeper, and it's so important to have that communication with the defense and the goalkeeper, and it's something that we didn't see too much with Jonathan Bond.
Yeah.
It's important to have that because then the goalkeeper can direct the defense and tell them where to be and where to do and what to go. And if somebody in the defense makes a mistake, you hold them accountable, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, J Mac's been doing fine. Everybody seems pretty content with him, but obviously a lot of people are saying could do better. But you know what? No complaints. He's
Yeah.
doing fine.
I'll always love him. I do think a few people will find it unforgivable that he went to the rival, but he won us MLS Cup. We can never hate J Mac because of those penalty saves. But that passion is what makes him so fun. He is a little streaky. He can get in his head sometimes, but he is, I don't know, that sort of jawing, sort of like intense guy, like streets of Philly sort of guy, is what makes him so fun to root for, because he just feels like relatable, and that he cares as much as you care as a fan.
So prediction time.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I expect a really intense match. I think it's gonna be decided by 1 goal. I say Galaxy wins 3-2, but you said 4-3. My God, that would be insane. Taylor Twellman would be like going out of his mind. He's gonna be there, right?
Yeah,
I'm
for
expecting
sure.
Taylor Twellman to be there. He loves this rivalry, and yeah. But yeah, 3-2. I expect 3-2 Galaxy. I don't know if Ricky Puig is gonna have like like the start, and if not, if he comes in the second half, he might change things around. But more than anything, I just really hope for a very entertaining match. It would it would really suck, right? For lack of a better word, if after all this hype we get like a dull, like scoreless, right,
That never
result.
happens. These players know how much this game means. Everyone goes out for this. It'll even when there's ties, they're intense ties. I would like, has there been a boring game? I guess MLS's back was not the most fun because it was such a blowout or whatever. But like outside of that, I feel like they've all been pretty intense.
I think the first match, I think the first match this season started off kind of slow,
Yeah.
and then it picked up towards the end.
That's
And
also, that was our, like, I think they wanted to make the game uncomfortable. The LAFC game plan was to kind of screw with how good the Galaxy play, because it was, yeah, I think you're right. We weren't playing well, and we came in and we're like, we have to make this a hard game for them by making it bad soccer.
okay, um, so now we've done predictions. Let's shift to other things. We mentioned him already a few times. Um, Olivier Giroud is definitely coming to LAFC. What are the expectations for him once he joins the squad? And you think it's going to be a positive, or is it going to shake things up? And you know, because the team is doing so well, sometimes you don't want to mess with the chemistry, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you hope that a guy as good as he is could only be a positive. But for the majority of this season, we've played without a number 9. We've been starting Kai Kamara the last couple games because Kike Oliveira is at Copa America. And we've been doing well actually with a 9, which wasn't the case the few times we tried earlier in the season. So I think as long as we keep up with the level of play that we've played with Kai Kamara starting, I am confident that it can only be good. And I think, like what we said earlier, the gravity that Carlos Vela used to, I almost just called him Carlos as if we were good friends. The gravity that my good friend Carlos used to bring to the field, where the defense was drawn to him, I think that'll start happening again. And Denny Bouanga might have some more open field play, which will be very helpful for him because he's so good one-on-one. But once you put 2 people on him, he gets flustered or he tries to force it or whatever. And that's when he makes his mistakes. So I'm hoping that Olivier pulls some, I'm calling him Olivier as if we're friends. I'm good friends with everyone on the team. You should know that. But yeah, I hope it's only positive. It's certainly possible. He's also old, but he had a good season at AC Milan. So I'd like to think that that translates here, but you never know. It's always, as the Galaxy knows, it's always hit or miss who, when you bring in an older player, might be a Steven Gerrard versus a David Beckham.
Not him. Jeez, that was terrible.
Yeah, but then you got so many years with really good people too. Gerrard's one of the few misses you guys had in those years.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then you got like a Kevin Cabral and God. Anyway,
he got a red card against us this last week.
I saw that.
It felt like old times.
Yeah, normally like quiet little dude, right? And you know, he does like little quiet things here and there, and then he gets a red card, and everybody in Galaxy Land like took notice, like, what? He got a red? What the heck was he doing? And then you go back and you watch the highlights, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you'll get a red for that.
Yeah.
You mentioned Carlos Vela. I that's a big enigma. I know his name comes up a lot, especially on transfer time with MLS circles. And from my perspective, maybe you could shed some light on it. I've always felt like very talented player, natural skill, but doesn't have the heart there of like a very competitive person to say, yeah, I'm gonna come back in and play hard. It seems like he's really enjoying his time off away from football. Do you ever see him coming back to LAFC or MLS or just playing in general?
It's interesting. I disagree that he didn't have the heart. He came in with that reputation, and I watched him lose his mind when he got pulled out of a game early, or I watched him really like he was in tears after we lost against Columbus last year. And there's just something. I know he has that reputation. I do feel such a fondness towards him because I watched him fight past a lot of that. And he really hated Zlatan, man. You could tell he hated Zlatan. Like, so there was that passion there. I do think that he's like a happy-go-lucky guy. He seems really happy on vacation. I hope we find a way to give him some sort of retirement tour. The vibe that I got from talking to people that are closer to the club than I am is that he still wanted a DP slot. We said, we'll bring you back. We can't afford to give you that. They even tried negotiating with the league to come up with some sort of thing where it's like, we have this guy for so long. He wants to come back. Is there a way that like a legacy player could stay on a DP contract longer or whatever? And I think that got shut down. I hope that
We're not
we
Inter
get.
Miami. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if Messi's friend wants that, there was a rumor for a while that Vela might go to Miami, and like he almost signed with San Jose, and I think in hindsight, most of that was probably negotiation tactic from his agent to try to get him a DP slot. Maybe things change if we get a third DP. I don't think they'll ever give him the same salary, and the only thing that I think at this point the ship has sailed. He's not fit. He's been on vacation for like 4 months. I think the only thing that could potentially bring him back to any MLS team is he's really good friends with Anton Griezmann. So if Griezmann decides to come to any club in this league, I think he would maybe sign on a low budget contract to play with him because I think they consider each other like best friends. They're really close. So that's the only way I think either LAFC or even like San Diego or someplace like that, where I think it would be possible if they gave him a DP, he might go there. But yeah, I miss him. I have fondness towards him, but I think all the fans agree he's not worth a DP at his age.
You mentioned Griezmann, and I wonder, which team out there has the discovery rights for him, right?
Yeah.
The mythological discovery rights.
Yeah, whose neighborhood did he grow up in North Carolina that he's in Carolina?
Right? Yeah. So the summer transfer window officially opened today, right? I think it was.
Oh, is it today? Wow.
I think it's July 1st. I don't remember, but the summer transfer window is obviously open. Are there any additions that you think LAFC would be looking for in the summer, or you think this team is fine as it is with Giroud coming in?
I asked the smartest person. I'm very dumb. I'm a comedy writer. I don't know a ton. But we have a guy on our podcast named Vince, and he's the actual smart one about soccer. And I was like, our team is thin. Who else are we going to bring in? And he was like, where are we thin? What are you talking about? And I was like, well, we have all these roster spots we're not using. But he pointed out, like, we feel confident in every position right now. We have Giroud coming in. We still have a third DP slot that isn't being used. So there's always a chance that someone else comes in. I think we haven't heard any rumors. There was maybe one rumor of a center mid that I heard of, which I think would only probably come in if Bogusz gets shipped out. But usually by this point, you've heard something, some sort of rumor about who it could be. Like Giroud, we heard 3 months in advance. So I think it might just be Giroud and maybe some auxiliary players here or there. But at the moment, I feel like unless we ship out Matty Bogusz, I think we're pretty good in most positions unless someone gets injured, obviously.
Yeah, I was double checking. Yeah, the European summer transfer window did open today. It runs until July 30th. If you're mentioning Bogusz might end up going back overseas. So maybe Trafico might be one of his last matches wearing LAFC colors.
I hope not, but he deserves it.
Okay. Well, that wraps it up pretty much. Thank you. Hey, Travis, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure and talking about this great rivalry these two teams have. Like I said, there's so much uncertainty for this match. I'm really looking forward to this match. I'm both like excited and scared at the same time, which is what you want for a game like this, right?
Yeah.
So once again, thanks again. If anybody wants to, to listen to the Happy Foot Sat Foot LFC podcast, where can they find you on socials?
On Twitter, we're Hafo Safo, HAFOSAFO. Around this time, Elon starts putting Galaxy tweets in my feed, and I don't like it because it feels like he's making me engage in the banter. I don't want to be mad at people, but I have a mental illness and I end up doing it. So if you see me being crazy on social media, I'm sorry. I don't mean for it to happen. But you can find that on Twitter. And then, like I said, if you want to hang out on YouTube and troll us, we're not doing a post-game show after this episode because it's a holiday, but after every other game, 10 minutes after the final whistle, we're live it's youtube.com/@happyfootsadfoot. And that, especially when we lose, if you want to come give us a hard time, we love when people make fun of us. It's part of the fun. So please come hang out in the chat and watch us cry when we lose.
So raise your cup of Smurf berry juice that we all got this week. 'Cause those Smurf tears are delicious, right?
Mm, mm.
Oh my God, that club is in trouble.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. Like I said, I'm Edgar from News Across the Galaxy.
Edgar, I want to say also thank you for having me. You know, it's nice to know that we can have these conversations,
Yeah,
and people who take it very seriously should remember we're all just humans who live in the same city.
yeah. I was also going to close by saying, if you guys are going to be at the game, whether you're LAFC or LA Galaxy, please have a good time. Drink responsibly. If you're going to be drinking, please have a designated driver or walk home or whatever. Please do not get triggered into any fights. There's always dumb people, and whatever group you're gonna come across, don't listen to all the noise. Just have a good time, enjoy the match, whether you win or lose. Just remember, tomorrow, I mean, the day after the game, you got to go back to your normal life and interacting with everybody once again. So have a good time and enjoy the holiday. And then we'll look forward to the next Trafico and the next Trafico and the next Trafico, all within the same season.
Yeah, we have 8 more this year, so don't worry.
It's like the baseball series or something.
Honestly, they're gonna force us to play a best of 7 if we meet in the
Right?
playoffs.
I think that would be like Garver's wet dream or something, man.
Yeah, truly. Get rid of every team besides LA, both LA teams in Miami, and just let us play each other at all times.
All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us. This is Edgar from News Across the Galaxy. As always, keep on nagging. And hey, baby, Wu-Tang for life. Let's go.